If I ever get back to Oklahoma, gonna nail
1999 recording Pearl Snaps came about because of, things were going on in the Stillwater scene, and I was playing around acoustic, and the band had gotten together and we were starting to play any place that would let us in the door.
That was our first album, so we really didn't have any clue what we were doing.
It was made possible by Mike McClure introducing us to Lloyd Maines.
He kind of took that and got us at least started in the right direction as far as what to try to do musically and how to try to make it all work together.
And Lloyd took a bunch of green musicians and took us to a higher level than I think we could have ever thought to take ourselves. And this is still what I tell bands today, is make an album and go give it to bars, give it to record stores, and get out there, get a product into people's hands so they can take it home and they can make you part of their soundtrack. Truck Stop Diaries, another album directly influenced by Mike McClure. We figured he had his finger on the pulse of the red dirt scene, and still does, and what people from the Oklahoma scene are doing, what they were doing back then. He was one of the guys who got us doing what we were doing and inspired it.
We picked Mike, we had worked with, or they kind of got us our first gigs as far as getting out of Stillwater, recommended us to play in Stephenville. Of course, McClure was a big influence on us as far as just performer and writer and human, I guess, if he's human.
So we thought, let him have a shot at producing it with JJ Lester, the drummer from The Great Divide. We went down to Eric Delegard's studio, Real Time Audio in Denton, invited Crouch down to help us out a little bit, and got to work with guys that still are folks we look up to so much, just as far as how they handle themselves, how they handle the music business, and still out there playing. Go see The Great Divide whenever you get a chance.
Dana Hazard was in the band then. We took the album, the back album cover picture was us all at the backyards of Webb's World of Fun. And that was a Lael Stagner, kind of a red dirt roadhouse. Bob Childers, Randy Crouch, Tom Skinner, everybody played there. And it washed away in a flood. But anyway, that's enough of that. Truck Stop Diaries.
My baby loves me when I'm stoned, as long as I find my way home.
Somewhere in the Middle is the album nobody remembers making.
I'm actually gonna have to think about that one.
We were touring hard, playing hard, running hard, everything we could do, as much as we could, as fast as we could, and went with Cedar Creek and Lloyd Maines again, and Lloyd was there for the tracking on that one, but I think his schedule conflicted with ours, so we were kind of left to our own devices as far as overdubs went.
Randy Crouch was there, I think.
One of the cool things that really did happen on that album was the Randy Crouch, Hope You Make It to the Mountain at the end, and the All-Star Family Jam. Doug Moreland's in there. I play one of the guitar solos. It's just a big free-for-all, but it was a lot of fun. The Bourbon Legend coming out of the ether, and we had people that were going to make big things happen for us. And you'd heard it before, but this time it seemed like the right combination of forces lining up.
One of our stranger albums, as far as not really our album, I guess. That's one I'd kind of like to redo. I think we should re-record that now. But that was one we went to Burbank, and we're gonna go avoid Nashville and go do something different.
And they sent us out to California to work with Pete Anderson, which was really interesting. Pete's just an amazing musician, songwriter, song arranger, fun hang, just a good dude. And brought all the guys. I went out there and did the pre-production, and then we all went out there. And I just think the label thing that we tried to go with, and when I say label, I use it lightly. It was called Sustain. It was people we knew, but they were trying to get a small label going. And I think we ended up with that album just trying to please too many people at once sometimes. So I think that album has like a different tone to it, you know, overall, and just a different sound and feel. And it's not good or bad. It's just a little bit different than what we had always gone for on ourselves, but still a great learning experience. It's out of press now, you can't get it. So you can go listen to it on YouTube's.
The Bourbon Legend. I think I have maybe 3 copies of that at my shop, and that may be the only 3 copies available anywhere.
Comal County Blue was, now where are we? Where are we doing this? What are we going for now that we kind of deviated from the original focus direction of what the Stragglers were given it? In any given time, you're still changing as you go, and you're changing with your influences, and hopefully you're learning and becoming better at your instrument and better at the crafting of songs and all that. But I thought, Comal County, let's get back, you know, to what I saw as our focus and our sound.
That was when Noah was in the band. That was really a good time through the band. The songs were good. That was a fun time. I think we were kind of getting sober, and so it was kind of a new light to things.
Worked with Lloyd Maines again, went back and recorded it in the hill country at a little place called the Zone out in Dripping Springs. And that album did my heart really, really good. We never set out to go, everybody's like, well, I'm gonna get on a label and change the machine from the inside. And I don't think we ever even thought about doing that. I thought any attempt we make to go mainstream is gonna take what we have and destroy it, and it probably won't even be good with whatever it comes up. You know, and people always say, why don't you go to Nashville? Why don't you all do this? Why aren't y'all bigger? And it's like, I'm not even saying we could have, because I don't think that's the type of entertainers we are. We fall more in just this, we always looked up to guys like Joey Jeff and Robert O'Keen, and not that those guys weren't successful and had great careers, but they were different than a mainstream media blitz of being this household name. And we always aspired to be that. And then when you say that in the world we live in, it sounds like sour grapes, like, And so I go ahead and say, yeah, we probably wouldn't even have made it in Nashville. We wouldn't have been a good Nashville band. It wasn't what we were doing. So Comal was just us really focusing back on what we do and where we want to go with our sound.
Yeah, that was like the first, like getting in the studio with sobriety and clarity from a period of time, you know.
Rancho Alto, Comal County Blue was almost called Rancho Alto. It was a little area in Austin that we passed on the way to the studio all the time, had a sign, and I just thought, you know, the high ranch, the ranch in the sky, you know, feel like it just had a ring of the good times to me. So I thought that'd be a great name for an album. I remember running that past Matt Hillier from 1100 Springs. He said, yeah, man. He said, like, that sounds like one of those albums, you know, it doesn't even exist yet. He says, sounds like one of those albums where people say, I like their stuff up until Rancho Alto, but man, after Rancho Alto, everything was like different. And I thought, well, I hope we can make part of that true. We recorded that one with Dave Percival at Yellow Dog when it was downtown Austin on Congress. And that was really fun about that one because you could step into this cave, you know how studios are. You walk in the entrance room and it gets a little dead, and you go down the hall and it gets even more dead, and you get in the engineering room, quieter, you go through the first double doors, and then you're in absolute silence. You have no idea what's going on from then on. Meanwhile, you're on Congress, so nobody got bored during that recording. You could always go just pop out and do whatever you want to do when you weren't being needed, and at the same time have that amazing isolation that they had in that studio. Dave Percival, he's such a sweetheart, such a great guy to work with. So I really do. I've had people tell me Rancho's our best work, and that's one of the ones. I don't have one where I say that's our best or that's not so much, but that's definitely one I don't argue with, and really proud of that album.
Rancho Alto is a little bit blurry because that's when my wife was pregnant, and then our daughter was born like right after the release of that, so I may not have a lot of recollection of Rancho Alto. The artwork is the coolest.
I refuse to spend the rest of my
Dark and Dirty Mile, I had been, ever since Pearl Snaps was recorded, it was the end of an era in places like Cedar Creek. They had an old Neve board, and you recorded to the 2-inch tape, and you mixed it down to the 1-inch tape. And you mixed like this rather than like this. You know, you mixed with your ears and not your eyes. So
it was really cool to be back to Cedar Creek because it's a real relaxed vibe. It's where we'd done a couple projects before and a project with Bob Childers. So it was really kind of like being at home. Working with Shooter was great because he just understands Jason's writing and just us as musicians, and that was a real pleasure to work with Shooter on that.
We were in Steamboat, and it was a year that I was busy, where you have a bunch of different interviews and acoustic shows and your band show and the tribute show, so it didn't go out a lot. And one night, Shooter was playing down at the tent, and my wife Mandy and I were thinking, we can't just not go out every night. If we have some time off, we have to go catch a show. And went to Shooter's, ended up visiting with him. We were just talking about producing albums, and I said, have you ever produced an album? He said, not really. He said, I've worked with some stuff that made me think I want to produce. I said, well, let's do it. I said, one thing, would you have a problem doing tape to tape, keeping it like that, and no digital environments? And he said, absolutely. Like, didn't even hesitate. So he was in there placing mics because, you know, you have a different amount of tracks you can use. You're limited. You have to get your take that you like and be done with it and whatever. So it's a different process. I don't think a lot of people get it. It preserves tone quality that I always wanted to go for. It makes you commit to something, and it makes you live with what you did. So in the Stragglers tradition of making all the wrong decisions for all the right reasons, that's how Dark and Dirty came about. Got to work with Shooter for the first time, and that guy really knows his way around a studio, and he's just, rule number one in our organization is you got to be a good hang first. If you're super talented, but you know, not cool to be around, we'd probably rather not. But of all the people I've met in the music business, Shooter is probably the most down-to-earth, real person. And I'm one of those people that I can't say hyperbole or superlatives about anything. Like, that's the best or that's the best. But for pound, Shooter's the nicest guy in the business.
Let's see, that was done at the Orb, which is the Blue October studio in Austin. Real cool studio. awesome espresso machine, and they had the arcade multiplayer, multi-game, like 75 or 100 arcade games all in one big arcade. Oh, it was great.
Squelch. I can't eat tomatoes, like just a regular tomato. They're just off the vine. I mean, I can, they're just not my favorite. It's one of those things I wish I would get it. Like, I try them every year. I try one. I like tomato sauces, ketchup. I love everything a tomato makes, fried green tomatoes. Just why can't I like a tomato? And I'm fascinated by things like that I can't make myself like. So Jim Ward, founding member of At the Drive-In, has a, if you want to call it an alternative country, maybe a little more folk rock kind of outfit he has, called Sleeper Car. I saw that, had a pedal steel, and I thought, with some of the stuff I'm writing, I thought I would love to have just more of a insurgent emotional energy to this album. I wonder if a guy like that would ever produce a band like us. We have a mutual friend from El Paso. I called him and said, hey man, do you know Jim Ward? Just hit him up, see if he would want to produce us. Heard right back from him. Couldn't believe it. We went in, and another one said again, you mind if we do it tape to tape? I'm like, sure, we'll do it. He brought his Gabe, his right-hand man and engineer, and we recorded it down in Austin, and then went to Sonic Ranch and did some overdubs and came up with a pretty raw, little aggressive album for the Stragglers.
We did a lot of coffee and video games. There was a pool table, and the album was nice too. It was fun recording the album. Got a lot of artwork out of that from Brad at the time. He just started doodling, and all of a sudden he started drawing like lifelike stuff. So it's kind of like, seemed like that's where Brad started drawing and being an artist.
Hard Times Are Relative went back down to Dave Percival's new Yellow Dog in Wimberley. He had him a spot right there on the river.
That was kind of getting us outside of a comfort zone a little bit, recording.
And one more time of just, hey man, I'm really enjoying recording tape to tape. So we did it. Adam Oder and Dave Percival were down to do that. And they took a little more of the reins of producing this one. We self-produced with them, but they really, Adam and Dave had a lot of input and really helped out with the arrangements. I think that album, I loved it, loved the production of it, it was a joy to make. But something about that album is what spawned the next one. It felt like we had made a really good, really safe record in a way. I don't know. It just, like I said, nothing wrong with the album. It's just, it left me wanting, like, remember on the next one, make it not just a collection of songs again.
We did Grandfather's Theme as a bonus Randy Crouch song, and that's where we really ventured out there and played with sound a lot more, and I think that probably kind of sparked our interest moving forward to the Light Saw Me.
Every band kicks around ideas with their delusions of grandeur, of like, a rock band, we're gonna do a country album, country band, we're gonna do a rock album, we're gonna do this album, we're gonna do a concept album, do a double live. It's just, anytime you get ambitious, it doesn't leave any room to back out once you get into it. And a concept album, you know, especially the one we had with time travel, you know, we didn't want, you know, anachronisms and holes in the plot, and you know, anything that would I don't know, make you feel dumb for missing it in your whole narrative. It started out as The Light Saw Me, just sounded like a guy going fishing.
That's my personal favorite album.
I was listening to a lot of Desert Oracle radio at the time. Ken Lane, he broadcasts out of Joshua Tree, and it's all just about high weirdness and aliens and the desert. And so then, working on a lick that became Terrifying Nature, that Come Hear the Tale of the Cowboy just became this carny barker talking about this guy that went fishing and saw something in the sky. And then once those two songs, I thought, and then this, and then what if, yeah, and he gets abducted and comes back and everybody's gone. And then once I got that story in my head, I wrote Tornado and the Fool and Right Here for You. I'm always looking for songs that are real close to me that I didn't write but fall into whatever vibe of an album or projects going on. Grant had written the song The Future, and The Skylands in the Future, that song was perfect, even the way it just changed up the whole vibe of the album right there, because he's been transported 100 years.
COVID came along, I guess, in a weird way to give us a lot of postponement to be able to further develop everything and get ambitious enough to go ahead and make it a full-on concept album.
Shooter Jennings, once again, I thought, man, after his Black Ribbons, he will, of course, understand where we're wanting to go with this. And when you don't have to get somebody over to your side, when you can already start from there, you feel like you're light years ahead. So
it seemed like the more freedom, the variety of styles throughout the songs, recording with kind of a new group of folks. I mean, it was Noah and Roger recording on that, but with Jake Lynn on drums on that one, he's really brought kind of a new spark to the rhythm section of the band, which is pretty much me. But
it is my most enjoyable production of an album, start to finish, to date.